Good afternoon and welcome to Smart Social Tips. I am so excited today to have with me Ric Bachrach. He is the CEO of Celebrity Focus, which is an amazing brand that helps famous people he helps famous people help famous brands or something like that. Anyway, I think I did that right. So anyway, I'm really excited that he's here, but I'm going to bring him right in without any delay. And hi, Ric. How are you doing today?
Hi, Cami. How are you?
I'm fine. I'm great. It's awesome. So I'm happy we're here. I love your background. You look beautiful in your
Thank you.
background there. So I'm really excited to have you because I think a lot of people are really curious about what it's like to work with celebrities. And I know that you've been doing this for what, 30 years now, something like that?
Oh, almost 40. We're dating
40.
me,
Okay,
but
well, I shouldn't have
like
brought that up. Okay. When
38
since you were
years.
like 12 or something like
Yeah,
that.
it seems like it.
Mhm.
Yeah, 38 years I think I've been doing this. And what I do is connect famous people with famous brands. And that's
You
for
do.
advertising, PR, promotions, just about anything.
So how did you get into that kind of career? I'm sure you've been asked this before. Like, how
Yeah.
would this come about?
Yeah, for me, it was really a transition.
Mhm,
I was an athlete, I was a hockey
mm,
player. And after my playing career was done, I decided to go into the camp business and figured out early on that I guess I had a natural nose for marketing. Now, I grew up in a very entrepreneurial family. So I had the benefit of being raised by a father and a grandfather
mhm,
who were natural business people. And I was attracted to business in our home. It was as natural to talk about business and sales as it was anything else.
mhm,
So when I opened my camp business, I started doing deals, marketing deals to bring in sponsors for the camps. Other summer camps didn't do that. So I was out there and in addition to doing all the things you do to run summer camps,
mhm,
um, I was also creating sponsorship deals. One thing led to another. I worked with a lot of NHL players and retired players that some of them were people I knew from my career, and others were folks that I'd met through my camp operations. One thing led to another. Once they saw the sponsorship I was doing, they said, "Hey, can you help me find a deal for such and such?" And my response was, "Sure, let me make a few calls." One thing led to another that was pretty successful. And that led me to an opportunity. I got hired by a sports marketing company, not a little one, but the granddaddy of the agent business in sports marketing, it's a company called IMG, huge global firm. And
mhm,
IMG was opening a new office in Chicago at the time. And
mm,
I was one of two people that they selected. I also had developed very good corporate contacts. I was well
mm.
connected in with senior brand leaders and agency leaders, frankly, because I knew a bunch of these people through the hockey world. So
Mm.
it was pretty weird, but IMG hired me on to help open their Chicago office. That was a lot of fun. I did that for about a year on a consulting basis, then got hired by another agency that was relocating to Chicago.
Hmm.
And they said, "Hey, we don't have a marketing rep. Why don't you come in and rep our athletes?" And they had, I don't know, a couple of probably about 200
Mhm.
major league level athletes, baseball, football, really across the board. So within a year or two, they said, "Yeah, we're going to make you director of marketing. Why don't you build the department?" So I did that with Coordinated Sports, what's now part of Octagon. And
Yes.
in 1987, I said, uh, I have a small tolerance. I'm not a good wet nurse, and representing athletes, I probably
Mhm,
don't have the best personality for that. So I
mhm,
decided I'd rather represent the other side of the table. And what I did find is that brands really did not have a lot of experience. They were onboarding celebrities, um, for the most part, athletes, but also actors, actresses, a variety of personalities. And for the most part, back in those days, brand leadership did not have a lot of experience doing that. And
Yeah,
more
'cause
often
that was
than
new. That
not,
was kind of a new
it was
area,
an
like, you
emerging,
can't. Yeah.
it was an emerging field as a broker of talent, which was really what I was doing. So I was representing the brand side
Mhm.
um, in their relationships with celebrities. That was my
Yeah.
start.
That's crazy. So yeah, I mean that being there at the beginning like that, and of course the camps. So you kind of glossed over that real quick, but you did these camps. Were they for kids or like student, like
Yeah, they were
athletes or?
yeah, they were summer hockey camps for kids
Mhm.
here in the Chicago area where I live. And it was funny. I'm not a guy who does stuff small.
No.
So our very first summer, we had 600 kids, which was kind of, the approach we took at the time was a little different. We were using NHL players. A lot of the other camps well, there weren't a lot of them back then, but
Mhm.
this would have been in the early 80s. You had a handful of hockey camps in the summer to occupy the kids. We
Mhm.
put together a summer day camp, and I put all the NHL players who were living in the Chicago area at the time. I put them to work in the summer. They had
Cool.
nothing to do. It was a
Yeah.
great marriage, and families loved it. So we had 600 kids and 200 on a waiting list, and it was a big success. And all the equipment manufacturers onboarded with me, NHL sponsors onboarded with me. So it was a pretty unique experience.
Yeah, what I know about you, because we've been working together for about a year or so, is that you have a lot of energy, number one. And number two, you're full of ideas and connections, so you think of things in a very connected way. I mean, that's just been my not knowledge of you as we've gone along.
Well, I appreciate that, and um, yeah, I'm not really sure what to say to that, but I do consider myself a creative person, and
Mhm.
I live in a world of possibility, and as I think that's been the hallmark to my career is figuring out ways and figuring out unique ways and fun ways that my clients can ultimately engage with their audience.
Mhm. Yeah, and so let's get to that because you now have celebrity focus. So
Right.
how did that happen? When did you go out on
Yeah.
your own, and why did you go out on your own? Yeah.
1987, as I mentioned earlier,
Mhm.
realized that I love doing deals. I
Mhm.
just did not enjoy representing the talent side of the equation because
Okay.
there's a lot of babysitting.
Mm.
When I was at CSMG, we had a lot of very high profile clients, and some of them were a pain in the butt. I was a hockey player, I was also a hockey coach.
Mhm.
And, even for me, it was an interesting crossroads because I was actually coaching full time at Northwestern University from 1982 to 86
Mhm.
at the same time that I was working at IMG and then coordinated sports. I had, because of the wonderful world of scheduling, I had the ability to work two full-time jobs. So at Northwestern, we practiced at 5:30 in the morning so that our student athletes could
Mhm.
practice, and then we were done by 8:30 and the kids could go off to class.
Mhm.
And it was either sit around and twiddle my fingers all day or keep working. So I was able to juggle these two great jobs. And then in 1986, I had a job offer to continue coaching at the professional level.
Oh, interesting.
Um, my wife was pregnant at the time, and we had that serious conversation of probably not going to work to keep doing both. So what do we want to do? And the conversation we had was, all right, if you pursue the professional coaching career, what does that look like? And what does it
Mhm.
look like from a family perspective? And we talked about it, and the reality was, if I went down the coaching path, it meant
Mhm.
we were probably moving every 2 years. We
Mhm.
both had family in the Chicago area, and while I don't mind doing some travel,
Mhm.
I really didn't want to be relocating every couple of years. So
Yeah,
I
it
made
doesn't
the
go really well with family life, I guess.
no. It's a coaching is a very tough track to follow. Pardon
Mhm.
me.
No, it's all right.
So the other thing was I really asked myself a serious question of how did I feel about the business career relative to how I felt about the coaching career. And the fact
Mm.
was, I loved both of them, but I got as much juice out of my business career as I did out of coaching. It was always about competition. It was always about creativity and pursuit of great results
Mhm.
and the pursuit of excellence. So for me to make that decision to leave coordinated sports, bet on myself,
Mhm.
to go solo, it was a gamble, but it was also a good one. So
Right, it's turned out pretty well. Give you a minute there, but while
sorry.
we're talking about this, no, you're good. I'll give you a second to drink. I'll ask you a question while you're drinking. So, this is, I just want people to understand how this works because you have an agency and you actually represent the brands really in the end of the day, right? So I mean, you bring together the celebrities and the brands.
Yeah,
So how does that work? Can you give me a flow of how that works?
sure. So I represent the brands, and then I also represent agencies.
Mm,
Sometimes I'm brought in directly by brand leadership.
mhm.
Other times I'm brought in by agencies on behalf of their brands. Hold on for one moment.
Okay. So yeah. So you're brought in by those brands and the agencies hire you because they have clients that are looking to connect these different um celebrities with their brand. So for a commercial or for video or for something like that. Is that do I have that kind of correct?
Yeah, some sort. Typically, it's either for a PR program
Mhm.
or an advertising campaign. Brand leadership or their agencies
Mhm.
have made the decision that they want to utilize celebrity talent
Mhm.
to work on behalf of their brands. And they're smart enough to realize that even if they've worked with talent before, it's not something they do on a
Mhm.
daily basis. So for me, this is really all I do. Um, Part of it is figuring out the process. Let's say determining what the brand's looking for.
Mm.
So in every single case, the spokesperson serves a single purpose. They're there to be the vehicle for dissemination of corporate messages, whether whether that's uh, within the realm of public relations or an ad campaign or a promotional program. In every single case, the common thread is what's the purpose of the spokesperson, what's the purpose of the celebrity, and there are obviously some other one-off situations, right? So
Mhm.
if a brand brings in a celebrity to entertain at a set of meetings or speak at a conference, that's not necessarily message driven. But
Mhm.
in most of the communications campaign uses, they're there to further those corporate messages. So now you go through a process to figure out, well, what are the attributes? What do we want in a spokesperson? How do we find the fit between the spokesperson and the brand? And that really comes down to what are the objectives? What's the audience we're trying to reach?
Mhm.
What are the demographics we're trying to reach? There's a whole litany of questions. I'll walk my clients through a fact finder to gather all this information so that I can create a personality profile, not the person. My first step is really let's figure out what that spokesperson looks like
Mhm.
as opposed to right out of the gate, who is that spokesperson? So we start off with that. Once we've got that, then we're asking key questions like budget and reach and what kind of budget is going to go behind it to um, support the use of the celebrity. So if a client has um, let's say $5 they want to invest in their campaign, I'm going to turn around and suggest, well, we may want to spend $1 to acquire the celebrity and $4 to support it, right?
Yeah,
It's
because you've got to do the marketing too, as far as that the ad buys or whatever else that goes with it, right?
and there's got to be a good balance. It's like
Mhm.
when an Olympic sponsor acquires the rights to use the Olympic rings, typically rule of thumb is 4-1 or 5-1 You'll spend the one is the acquisition of the property, either a
Mhm.
celebrity in this case, or a property like the Olympic rings, what have you. But the majority of that spend is going into the program, into the campaign, into the ad buy, etc. So, all of that's part of the equation. Once we know the budget
Mhm.
and we've got an idea of the type of person,
Mhm.
um, and what that campaign might look like in terms of what the essential elements are. What do we need that person to do? Now we can start to put together a candidates list that's focused and realistic.
Mhm.
Every client always seems to have a champagne taste and a beer wallet. So
Yeah, they don't wanna pay anything for what
no,
they're like.
everybody wants George Clooney, but they can afford Donnie Most. So the beauty is that there's talent available for every budget and every fit. There's a fit out there, but
Mhm.
clients have to be realistic. And they can
Yeah.
accomplish you can accomplish an awful lot of
Mhm.
things without A-list talent. You just need to have the right match.
Yeah, I
One,
mean, I've done a ton of, like, influencer campaigns. That's more what
Mhm,
I've dealt in. They're paid campaigns, but they're influencers. And, there was a guy named Dave Sifry, like, in the early days of the internet, he called it the magic middle. These
right.
people that are, they're just perfectly suited for a brand because they use that. I think that should be the same for celebrities too, though. You wanna find a celebrity that fits your brand. I heard on the radio today that, they're sending, I think, they're sending, Tom Cruise to space, like actual space to, film on the space station, and they're trying to teach him how to, like, do the first civilian spacewalk. I I don't know I don't know if that's an Elon Musk thing. I just don't know if it's being sponsored. I don't know what's going on with that, but I just think there's people that you think, "Yeah, that makes sense." That Tom Cruise would do that.
The great thing about the celebrity world is they're all looking for something fun. I interviewed somebody recently, an agent, and
Mhm.
I asked him, what is it that his clients are looking for?
Hmm.
And he thought about it for a minute, and I'll keep the language clean since
Yeah.
I
It's a family
he
show.
yes, a family show. But he basically said my clients just want to do cool stuff.
Stop. Okay, that, yeah.
Right, cool
We got
stuff.
it.
And I said, "Great, that's a great answer." But
Wish I could do emojis. I could put the little emoji up and we'd know what that was.
right,
Anyway, so yeah, it's awesome. Yeah, no, I think that's right. And so you do that and you do it as I would call it a solopreneur really in many ways, right? I mean,
uh,
you have help, but
no question. And I've got a great support team, people
mhm,
that work on legal and logistics and details that
mhm,
work with me.
mhm,
Having said that, I'm involved in every single deal. Throughout
mhm.
my career, I have worked on a little bit north of 4,400 deals.
Oh
So
my
there's
gosh.
not much I haven't seen.
Mhm.
Just about every type of use and application.
I want to
And
actually transition and talk about your business, but
sure,
before we do, I want you to tell me. I want to hear stories. So I came in here wanting a story. So, what is the most, like maybe the most interesting engagement that you've ever done? We can go towards either something that was terrible or something that was your favorite. How about your favorite thing that you ever did?
yeah. So I'm like anybody else, right? I'm a
Mhm,
big fanboy, and
mhm,
throughout my career, there are folks that I've looked at and said, boy, if I ever get a chance to work with that person, I'd love to do it. That's happened to me a few times.
mhm,
Um, the most notable was probably, and I don't remember what year it was,
mhm.
but my client was British American Racing, which
Oh,
was a
okay.
Formula One race team, and they were owned by British American Tobacco, and it was for Lucky Strike was the
Oh my
brand.
god, that's how old this is. Yeah, I remember Lucky
Yes,
Strike.
well, and Luckies are probably still around, but
Mhm.
that was a really storied, iconic brand.
It was.
And Lucky Strike had just um, dipped their toe in and began to sponsor a Formula
Mhm.
One race team. And the timing of everything coincided with it might have been the 25th anniversary of the film Grand Prix, which was a racing movie. It was the only racing movie at that time ever to have won an Academy Award. And the star of that film was James Garner. So they had this really grandiose plan to sign James Garner and ultimately to do a big press event, an international press event at this historic race course in Italy called Monza, Autodromo di Monza. And that was kind of like the Fenway Park or Wrigley Field of auto racing. So we did this deal with James Garner, and I grew up and I loved Garner. I was a big fan of Maverick and a bigger fan of Rockford Files. He just seemed like this really cool guy. So I went and we did this deal with James Garner, and I picked up Jim. It wound up British American Racing put this incredible deal together, an offer, and I picked up Jim in Los Angeles. I flew to LA, met Jim, and he got to bring somebody with him to do this. So he brought his best friend from childhood. This guy, Bill Saxon, I think was his name. So I met the two of them in LA, and then we got on this 15-and-a-half-hour flight, and we flew to Osaka, Japan. We got met by these two limousines, and we were driven like 3 hours south of Osaka to a town called Yokkaichi, which was actually a big city. And then we were based there, I think, for 3 days. And every day the limo would pick us up and take us another hour south to this city called, this racetrack called Suzuka Circuit. And that was the home of the Japanese Grand Prix. And that was the final race of the season. So it was to determine the world champion.
Oh my gosh.
So we basically got to hang out in the pits for 3 days. Jim was a big gearhead. He loved racing. He had raced at Le Mans. He loved being under the hood of cars. So he got to hang out and work in the pits and in the garage, working on the car. Wow. And stuff like that. He did that for a couple of days. I just hung out pretty much in the craft services and the catering area. I just hung out with the catering people. That was great.
That's awesome.
And then on race day, Jim drove the pace car, and then we met up in the owner's box, and we sat there and watched this Japanese Grand Prix from the owner's box, and it was a tremendous experience. Then we flew. After that, we then flew to London. We went from Osaka to London, and we spent a day at the British American Racing Factory, which was at the Silverstone track. So again, he got to hang out and work on the cars and drive the cars and stuff like that. Then we went to Spain for a week. So we went to the Costa del Sol, and we were entertaining other sponsors of the team, playing golf for a week, which, as you can tell, I hate golf.
Yeah, you hate it. I know you don't, because most of the time I don't get to see you in some of our meetings. It's because you're out golfing somewhere.
Usually. So we spent a week entertaining sponsors by playing golf every day, all up and down the coast of Spain. And then we went to Milan. And then we finally spent 2 days outside Milan at Monza, where we did this 2-day press event. And they had media from 49 countries represented. Wow. And they had brought the cars in that actually appeared in the film Grand Prix. Jim appeared side by side with their lead driver, this former world champion, a guy named Jacques Villeneuve. And they had brought Jim's costume that he wore in the movie, his racing suit, and his helmet. And his car from the movie was there. And he jumped in the car and said, "I'm going to take it for a spin," and off he went. So, that was a really cool thing. And being able to hang out for 2 weeks with James Garner. Jim was a great guy. That was a lot of fun. And, I know this is a long story, but I'll tell you a fun little thing. This was not a big budget thing. And we were in the elevator in Japan. It was after the second night we were there, and we're going up to our floor, and Jim said, "Rick, what did I get paid for this?" And I said, "Well, Jim, it was just a very modest honorarium. It was like $50,000."
Mm-hmm.
And it was quiet for a moment. He said, "I just did those commercials for MCI." I said, "Yeah." He goes, "Got 3 million for those."
Yeah.
I said, "Yeah, no, I know, Jim. This was really just an honorarium is what we had to work with."
Mm-hmm.
Quiet for a moment again. He goes, "I'd have done it for free, right?" And I
Yes.
said, "Yeah, I get that.
Yes.
We didn't
Yes.
want to disrespect you like that." He goes,
Mhm.
This has been really fun." So
No,
it's not always about the money.
no, it isn't. I so appreciate that you said that because working with influencers like we have, if you create experiences that are a win-win for both you, your client, and the talent, you are going to get so much better quality of stuff too. So I'm sure his video and stuff was also just really authentic and I'm sure it was amazing. I'm sure you were like yes.
It was really an amazing experience all the way around.
Hmm. Yeah,
The funny
that
thing is,
can.
my airplane ticket for
Mhm.
that was about half of the fee that he got
Yeah.
paid.
That's how much it cost to yeah, fly around, and stay
Yeah, we
in
flew
the
first
hotels.
class. We flew first class everywhere. They put us in amazing places.
Mhm,
We ate very well while we were
mhm.
there. Yeah, it was quite the worldwide excursion with a really great guy.
And a really great talent. So I love you said that because even though, I mean, I don't know of the people who listen to this, how many will hire a celebrity for one of their marketing campaigns? You may not. But what I think is great about what you're saying is that even if you're just hiring influencers, remember that creating experiences is everything. It's everything. So, I mean, that's sort of where I came from too, creating experiences for influencers. So that being said,
It's a great point because money is just one of the things.
mhm,
Uh, don't get me wrong. There are times when the dollars really drive the deal,
mhm,
and talent always wants to be compensated, and more
of course.
importantly, agents and representatives
Mhm,
want them to be
mhm,
compensated because
yeah,
otherwise they're not getting paid.
mhm.
So we can always aspire to the James Garners. It doesn't mean it's always going to work. That was a
No.
rare case, but
Mhm.
those deals are occasionally out there.
Yeah, they really are, and when they really are magical. I've had a few like that are truly magical, but this is about you. So, I wanna talk to you then about you. So we've been talking about your business and sort of how we came together. So about a year ago, it's been almost a year ago now. No, it's been a year. You and I met and we started talking about your business, and you were in the midst of doing a new website refresh. So, for you and for all of us as marketers and business owners, we often do other people's marketing at the expense of our own. It's just a thing. So, why you were starting with this website thing. So, can you kind of explain to me kind of how that came about and what you were thinking when you were starting your refresh?
Yeah, I'll actually go back a little bit further and tell
Mhm,
you that my original website, I think, was done in 2000 or 2001, something like that.
mhm,
And, like so many people, I looked at it as just kind of an online brochure, and it was
mhm,
it was what it was, right? For many, many years, websites, for the most part, were just online brochures.
mhm,
And I always knew it needed to be redone,
mhm,
and I didn't do it. And then finally, in 2016, one of my clients, who's also a very dear friend and a very good marketer, said, "Hey, can I talk to you about something personal?" I was like, "Sure." She's like, "Your website? Yeah, I would take it down." And I said, "Really? Why?" She goes, "It's really dated. Doesn't
mhm,
reflect well on you."
mhm,
And I thought, that's great. So in 2016, I did the first revamp,
mhm,
and it was fine.
mhm.
Back then, everything was done in the Apple look. the
Yes.
clean white backgrounds,
Yes.
and there wasn't a lot of interaction, so to speak. But it was a huge upgrade over my
Mhm.
previous website.
Right.
But in these past 5, 6 years, web technology has it's been changing so quickly. And in the period of 2 years, things have changed pretty dramatically.
It's true.
So about the time we met
Mhm.
last year, I knew I needed to redo the website.
Mhm.
But I also knew that I knew exactly who I wanted to reach with it, and I knew exactly what it needed to be in order to reflect properly. Because, it's the old story, Cami. You've only got
Mhm.
one chance to make a first impression.
It's true.
My clients are world-class brands. My clients are emerging brands, challenger brands, but they're all pretty big.
They are.
And the same thing with the agencies who represent them. I'm dealing with world-class agencies, highly creative agencies.
Mhm.
So their first look at my website has got to be able to speak to a few things. Number one, this person's on our level in terms of
Mhm.
capability. And number two, this person knows exactly what he's talking about.
Mhm.
So I needed to build a website that reflected those things. The
Yeah, and
first,
I think that's really important that you say that because and I'm going to bring up your website right now so people can kind of see it as we're talking about it. But and I'll put your I'll put the brand at the bottom here so you guys can get to it. But this was like you took your time with this in the sense that you wanted to make sure that this absolutely reflected who you were and could really like live with you for the next, I don't know, 5 years or something like that, right? You can, I mean, I'm sure you can make some changes, but I feel like that you've done a really good job of putting this together in a way that it just really does. It's a sizzle, right?
yeah, I would agree with that. And it's intended to be a living, breathing thing instead of a static thing. So
Right.
aside from the import of motion graphics and things like
Mhm.
that, the use of
Mhm.
video and
Mhm.
whatnot, the intent is for us to update content and to use it for display of content and have it be a breathable thing that attracts clients. And that and we're not going to do all of that from day one, but
Mm-mm.
we're going to be able to do it as we go. I have not even done a hard launch on this yet.
I know where
All we've
I'm
done,
kind of bringing it up here and showing it off a
sure,
little bit, but um it's just really great because you've got it just has a really good feel to it. Like, you're
thank you.
bringing them to a story, right? Which I think was one of the things I love about the way that you approached this is that you're bringing them through in a story about who you are, but also how it's going to help them, right? So
And
it's
that was a big part of our goal. When I started, I know what I do really, really well, and I
Mhm.
know what I don't do.
Yeah.
And I'm smart enough to know that when you don't know something, the one thing you do know is to go out and get experts to help you.
Mhm.
So for me, that was a team of people. It didn't start as a team, it started out as one, which was part of the reason it took me as long as it was to get this website where I wanted it to be. I
Yeah.
started out basically with a website consultant who whose real expertise was in architecture.
Mm.
Realized fairly early in the process that that was not going to be enough to get me the website that I wanted at the level that I wanted. So
Mhm.
I added to the team. I
Mhm.
brought in a really exceptional, uh, not he's oh, I'm having a senior moment here.
That's okay. It's all good.
A creative director.
A creative director. Okay, yeah,
Yeah,
cool.
so the creative director, and then very lucky that I'm good friends with a guy who's a copywriting legend. Truly is one of the legendary copywriters in this country, and has been the copy chief at a number of major ad agencies.
Yeah, and you can tell by this writing. So, I mean, it sounds like you but like a polished up version, like contact the boss. I can see you saying something like that. You can ask around. Our clients will tell you that we're approachable, thoughtful, and deliberate.
Well, I'll credit George Tannenbaum, who's a brilliant copywriter,
Yeah, we
and
see the media listens instead of like the, where I've been seen or, whatever everybody else says.
sure.
I love
So
that.
George Tannenbaum wrote and directed the copy,
Mhm,
and Dave Place of Let's Design Your Site, he was the architect,
mhm.
and Matt Gillis is the creative director. And Matt,
That's probably my favorite line, by the way, is that one. Feature film quality B movie prices.
that's all George.
Yeah, so good.
I remember an early conversation with George, and he said, this site should really reflect you and your personality. And I said,
Mhm.
yeah. He said, I think we should take some chances. I said, good. He's like, you're kind of a smart ass. I think we should play that. Now, this is the guy, by the way, who was the brains behind IBM Watson.
Oh,
And
yeah, that amazing. That was
you
just an
know,
amazing thing, yeah. So,
IBM Watson, Coca-Cola, he's done some amazing campaigns throughout the years. And I just thought that if he could bring voice to that, he
mhm.
could certainly bring voice to mine.
Yeah,
And
absolutely.
and he said to me at one point, well, how do you want to go about approvals? I said, you write it. You don't what I'm going to approve you? I don't think so. When we were
Yeah.
doing the final review,
Mhm.
we were down to like uh, one of the things at the bottom of the pages. It was a call to action thing. And George reads it and he reads it aloud and he's like, ooh, that's kind of snotty. I said, that was
Mhm.
like my favorite line in the whole thing. He goes, it's really kind
Mm,
of snotty.
mhm.
I said, well, he goes, I think we should take that out. I said, well, you wrote it. He goes, I know. And I liked it at the time I wrote it. But now that I see it
But it's
on the
too snotty.
page, it really looks kind of snotty.
Yeah.
I didn't really think it was. It was,
Mhm.
it was like, ready to connect. What have you been waiting for?
Mhm.
Something like
Yeah.
that.
He just didn't like that. He wasn't up
Yeah,
to the
he thought
snuff.
it was a little too.
Yeah.
It was little too in your face. I'm good
Yeah.
with all of that though.
Yeah. No, it is. I mean, well, that's definitely your personality. You're direct, you're fine with that. But I think that's important for people to know that when they are going to your website, to your social media channels, to wherever you are, your voice, your brand voice really matters. And
Right.
so I love that you're doing that. So really, again, this has been so much fun. We've like talked for a while, so I want to kind of wrap it up a little bit. But
Right.
what would be the top things that you would tell somebody when they're thinking about rebranding their agency, especially as a solopreneur? Because you are, a small agency like we
Yeah.
are, like I am, like you are. You are like really presenting here as a super professional. Like you could work with any brand in the world. And I think a lot of people ask that, like, how do I get bigger clients? How do I get more, prestige clients? So I would love some like tips from you about that to the audience.
Well, I'm going to. I guess I'll start with a little philosophy,
Hmm.
and that is be great. Number one, if you want great clients, you better be great at what you do.
Hmm.
And I am a believer that greatness is a choice. One of the reasons that I love what I do is I have always been fascinated by greatness, by exceptional people, exceptional talent, and I've been fascinated for years at what are the common threads.
Hmm.
You know, one of those things is a relentless pursuit of precision and excellence. And I can see I've met so many different people. I've worked with three former presidents, actors, actresses, entertainers, athletes, politicians.
Hmm.
The single most common thread is a relentless nature of direction and excellence towards their craft. The rest of their life may be a complete mess. Their approach to what they do is an
Hmm.
absolute relentless pursuit of excellence. And
Hmm.
I think that's something that applies to each of us. So the number one thing is you've got to have the ability to back up your claims. And, one of the things, Cami, I love about you is you are 100% the quality of your brand, right? I've seen a lot of social media expertise throughout the years, and
Mhm.
you're the best I've seen. Your knowledge, your ability to explain things in a way that people can understand.
Mhm.
So, how do you get great clients? Number one, you target those great clients. You've got to, and I'm paraphrasing one of the truly great consultants, David A. Fields, who says that the key to being a great consultant is to fish in the right ponds.
Mm.
I've referred to it differently, but it's essentially saying the same thing. I want to figure out where those clients are, the ones that I want to work with. I
Mhm.
want to figure out what their sandbox is. And I want to make sure that I'm in the sandbox playing with them. I don't want to be an observer. I want to be engaged. So a lot of my work is done in public relations.
Mhm.
A fertile ground for me from a marketing perspective is PRSA, Public Relations Society of America. I said, okay, well, if I'm going to join, or in my case, rejoin, I'm not just going to become a member and sit on the sidelines.
Mhm.
I'm going to jump in. I'm going to volunteer. I'm going to serve on a board. I'm going to meet people. And I'm going to be that idiot who walks up to people at lunches and says, hi, I'm Rick. Here's what I do. Who are you? What do you do? Oh, by the way, put your phone down. We're here to engage. You don't have to sit there like this. I know that's an odd concept.
Yeah, I like it.
Um, you
That's
want
how
to
we
hear my
met. That's how
pitch?
I met you.
It
So
works like this. You want to
we
hear my
met
pitch? I
PRSA.
connect famous people with famous brands. That's what I
Mhm.
do. If I can ever help, call me. Well, they always laugh. It's like,
Mhm.
wow, that's it. Yeah, that's great.
Mhm.
But the point is, you've got to engage with people. You have to figure out what pond there is, and you got to
Mhm.
go fishing. And
Mhm.
a lot of that fishing, nobody wants to be sold.
Mhm.
Here's what they want: they just want to meet people.
Mhm.
Um, they want to build relationships, and some of them don't even know it.
Mhm.
But and I think relationships, to a large degree, because of technology, a lot of folks, the newer executives,
Mhm.
there's too much technology to hide behind, but
Mhm.
that's okay. You put yourself in a position where you can be a resource and be seen as a resource.
Mhm.
The opportunity arises, they'll call you, but be out front, be visible, build relationships with people.
Mhm.
Don't sell. Yeah, my dad told me years ago, sales isn't really sales. And my dad was always
Mhm.
top three. A year after year after year, he came home with these sales trophies. And one day I said, Dad, what's the secret?
Secret.
And he goes, there's no secret. They solve their problems. If you can solve a problem, you've made a sale. That's it. Wow, that's yeah.
Mind blowing. And you just want to be useful. I mean, so how I've
Right.
managed to get into that too is the same way you have. I mean, I've worked with some of the biggest brands in the world, and it's by just being useful, being on top of your game, staying in the know about new things that are coming up that they don't know about yet, so that they need somebody to tell them about it. Right now I'm working on Web3, NFTs, the metaverse. I'm into my ears, like all the way to here with that stuff right now. But I don't talk about it all the time. Like with my students, I don't like say, here's the metaverse. You should be doing this, because it's not practical, right? So you've got to look at how you present to people. You want to be where they are. You want to meet them where they are, instead of trying to force what you are thinking they should have. So it's like trying to get somebody to eat broccoli, and
Right.
they need the broccoli and all of that, but what you really need to give them is the cake.
And
And
then, until I can get to know them, I
Mhm.
don't. They'll tell
Mhm.
you what they want, and they'll tell you eventually what their needs are.
Mhm.
Uh, I can't solve a problem for everybody, but
Mhm.
I like to meet people regardless. You
Yeah.
ask me what the biggest key is. I think just be authentic, be yourself,
Mhm.
especially as a solopreneur.
Mhm.
You are your brand.
Mhm.
So as long as your brand attributes are supported by who you are and that it's authentic, you got a shot.
Mhm. I agree. I agree. I mean, they're looking for people all the time, and you can do things to make your company more approachable. Make sure you have, like, your company set up correctly, like an LLC, like a normal company. You can do things like Like for me, I can become a woman-owned business, assigned, and then they're big companies are always looking to hire in those areas. There's things you can do, but I agree so much. Be authentic is just great. I think I'll leave it there on that. But before we go, I am going to let everybody know that how we did meet was a year ago, and I launched my first instant authority workshop, and you came to it, which I was so grateful of. And I just actually have that up here right now. So we're doing this again next week. We're going to be doing the instant authority workshop. And so you took this workshop. Tell them what this was about.
I took it. First of all, you and I met at
Mhm.
PRSA Counselors Academy in
We did.
Nashville last year.
Mhm.
So I had the pleasure of seeing you do a presentation there,
Mhm.
and I came away from there knowing I wanted to learn more. And I may not be great at social yet,
Not yet.
but
You
I
will be.
knew that I didn't know enough. And I also knew that I'd found somebody who could explain things in a way that I understood. And then shortly after that, you offered this instant authority. And, it was like 10 pounds of sugar stuffed into a 5-pound sack, to paraphrase Dolly Parton. Um,
Mm.
there was so much great and useful information packed into this hour and a half. And I came out of that. And for me, it was a no brainer of, okay, that was great for me to understand the basics and understand really what I didn't know and what I wanted to know.
Mhm.
And so you and I continued after that through Smart Social Mastery, and it's really been a blessing. Again, I may not do every single thing,
Mm-mm.
but it's given me the basis of understanding to know what I'm doing, being able to make conscious decisions about social, etc. So, and I haven't really even launched it, but we've done all these building blocks to get there.
Yeah, that's great. And I think with your website being where it's at now and where we're at with that, you have your brand like personality set. I think that like this time around when you do get instant authority, that's the cool thing is that you can do instant authority again and you're going to be ready for the next 3 months for your launch. And let's talk about that just a little bit because you are launching a podcast. Tell us about
I
that.
am. It's actually a vodcast,
A podcast, excuse
like
me.
this.
Mhm.
No, it's okay. It's good. That's called Celebrity Focus Insiders.
Mhm.
And I'm interviewing people who are experts in the business of connecting famous people with famous brands. So every week I've got a different guest, and those folks fall into brand management, chief marketing officers, brand leadership in general, agents, business managers. I'll be interviewing talent. So people from all sides of the industry, entertainment side of things, speakers. So everybody who's involved in this world of celebrity talent, I'll be interviewing all these different experts.
Right. And I just
Um,
think there's that logo's right there. Celebrity Focus Insiders. Read that.
that's
There it
exactly
is.
right. Celebrity Focus Insiders. So we'll probably launch that around the 1st of November.
Mhm.
We've been recording episodes, and once I've got 10 episodes that are completely finished, and those are by design 15 to 20-minute shows,
Mhm.
a couple of interview segments, and
Mhm.
some mid-roll and things like that. But they'll be really fun, and I've had some great guests on already, so we're getting close to the launch. And then I'll do.
I really can't wait to listen to it. I think it's going to be so interesting and fun. And I'm really excited for the launch of your podcast because I think that is really a great way for you to showcase how you can help other people at the same time as giving great information that's really is very entertaining, I guess, for the rest of us. So yeah,
Well, like anything else, it's always about the storytelling.
it
And the
is.
funny thing is, some of the folks don't like telling stories. Um,
Oh,
you know, I uh,
tea,
I
tea. You're gonna have
remember
to give us the tea on the back end.
many years ago. I remember there was a
Yeah.
very famous agent,
Mhm.
guy by the name of Bernie Brillstein,
Okay.
and Bernie was this. He was the agent's agent in Hollywood. Very gregarious guy who represented some big people. And he told me about this book that he had coming out, and he wanted me to have one of the first copies. And he said, "That's fun, and it tells you everything you need to know about me." And then Bernie went out to his car. We were doing a shoot with one of his clients.
Yeah.
Went out to his car, and he said, "Hot off the press, he handed me this book, and it was called You're No One in Hollywood Until Someone Wants You Dead." And I thought, that's just
That's hilarious. That's actually kind of true. It's kind of like that with
totally
politics
true.
too, I think, but that's another story.
But getting people to tell these stories, they'll skirt the edges. And I've been asked different times if I'm going to write a book. I was like, yeah, when I retire, I might write a book.
I mean, you kind of lose your ability to do work if you burn too many bridges on that front. But I mean, that's the one thing with this kind of a thing that everybody's afraid to talk. And I guess you see that all the time. That's why the scandal, everybody's really worried about scandals at this point. But yeah, so that's amazing. So I love it. Be authentic and don't air the dirty laundry till after you retire. I've gotten 2 things out of this.
Well, good.
And another one, go fishing where the fish are. I like that one too.
Yeah, you got to be fishing in the right ponds. That's it. Or as I like to say, figure out what sandbox they're in and go play with them.
I love that. I love that so much. So I am going to just say thank you so much for being here today and sharing with us your kind of journey through the last, first of all, your career, sharing a little bit of that with me because I haven't really heard the whole story. So that was really cool. And then secondly, kind of how you've gone through this new rebranding, refreshing kind of cycle and how it's normal. Like we all have to do it. We all have to go through this rebranding cycle. And again, if you want our help, both me and Rick are going to be in Smart Social Mastery and Get Instant Authority, which by the way is a free workshop. So it's not even, there's no reason for you not to be there. And then, it's a really great group of people and we actually make progress. That's the thing about this group is we make progress and we'd love for you to join us. So thank you so much for being here today. I cannot wait for you to have your podcast going for a while. Can I have you back whenever you've done that for a little while?
Anytime. I've thoroughly enjoyed our conversation.
Oh, me too. This has been really fun.
We have to get a camera that's in the right spot so I can see you.
Yes.
Look at the camera.
We're going to work on this. We'll get there. Hey, Bart. Bart just joined us. Hi, Bart.
Hi, Bart.
And nobody else popped in and made any questions, but if you do have questions for us, just put them in wherever you're watching this in the comments and we will come back. I will come back and answer them for you. So if you have any questions, I'll get them to Rick and, I'll make sure it gets answered. So yeah, we would love to get your questions. All right. Awesome. All right, guys, I'll talk to you soon. And we will be back next week at our regular time. This was a little bit different because Rick is too famous to make our normal time. He's got really important people he has to talk to.
I've got golf to play too, so.
You're messing with my image here. Okay. Anyway. All right, guys, I'll talk to you soon and we'll see you next week. Bye.
Bye.